Okay, so thank you, Rita, for having me at this institution course. And good afternoon, everybody. So before we address a patient of normal tension glaucoma, we have to realize the multifactorial pathophysiology behind this disease. And hence I'll just take you briefly through it. And we are all aware that the CNTG trial showed us that almost 20% of the patients continue to progress in spite of achieving the target intraocular pressure. And hence the concept basically of non-IOP dependent factors was put forth. Now, as you can see, the optic nerve head biomechanics, basically, or the connective tissue of the optic nerve head are dependent on IOP related stress or non-IOP related stress. Now, IOP related stress can primarily affect the connective tissue and cause deformation, and also secondarily by affecting the blood flow and the nutrient supply within the optic nerve head. The non-IOP related factors such as autoimmune or inflammatory insults and the retrobulbar optic nerve head blood flow affect primarily the connective tissues and also make it vulnerable to the secondary effect of the IOP factors. So the non-IOP systemic risk factors, which I will be discussing, are mainly the systemic hypertension and its management, resulting in hypotension, and the nocturnal hypotension. Now, we all are aware that in systemic blood pressure, we have the systolic blood pressure and the diastolic blood pressure. The diastolic blood pressure is very essential for tissue perfusion. And as soon as the diastolic blood pressure falls below 70 millimeters of mercury, that means there's insufficiency. This can result in damage to end organs. So the management of systemic hypertension itself can be a risk factor in the normal tension glaucoma. And how is that? Because we all are aware that reducing elevated blood pressure is essential to reduce the cardiovascular complications. There are different target blood pressures which have been recommended for different patient population. And what they found is the risk of death because of IHD or stroke is lowest if the blood pressure is in the range of 115 by 75. And for every 20 millimeters mercury rise in the blood pressure, that is systolic blood pressure, the risk increased or doubled. The recommendations from these groups, that is the JNC committee 8 guidelines, which say that most patients should achieve a goal of less than 150 by 90. But if the patient has associated diabetes or CKD, the blood pressure should be less than 140 by 90. In a different trial, which is the SPRINT trial, what they try to do is reduce the systolic blood pressure to much lower levels, that is less than 120 millimeters of mercury. And they achieved a very significant reduction in the cardiac events. But the problem was it is associated with the higher rates of other adverse events, such as hypotension, syncope, electrolyte abnormalities, and kidney failures. Okay, so though lowering blood pressure is good, but excessive is harmful not to the body, but even to our eye patients. Hence, the concept of nocturnal hypotension. We all are aware that the blood pressure, even in normal patients, normally decreases during sleep at night by about 10 to 20%. And in this study, what they did is they classified the glaucoma patients into depending on the dipping of the nocturnal the nocturnal dip. So if there is just a 10% dip, the patient was classified as a non-dipper, 10 to 20% was a dipper, and more than 20% was an extreme dipper. And what they found is there was higher incidence of visual field progression over 4 years in the extreme dipper group. In this study, basically, what they realized is they analyzed is in all patients of normal tension glaucoma, they measure the arterial pressure while awake and while asleep. And then they created this line, which was the mean arterial pressure while awake. And then they analyzed the nocturnal blood pressure in comparison with the mean arterial pressure while awake. Okay. And they analyzed how low, that is how low and how long did the diurnal nocturnal fluctuation occurred. And they found a significant correlation between the visual field progression with the length of the time and the magnitude of the drop in the nocturnal blood pressure. To give an example, if the blood pressure was only a few millimeters of mercury below the mean arterial pressure, but for a longer duration, there was a less risk of progression. But if the blood pressure drop or the nocturnal dip was more than about 30 to 40 millimeters, but only for a few hours, it had a higher risk. So drop in the blood pressure, nocturnal blood pressure is very important. This was one more study which analyzed patients of glaucoma in which the visual field progressed as compared to visual fields where the visual fields were stable. And they monitored a 24-hour systolic blood pressure and the diastolic blood pressure. And they found this line to be the mean nocturnal blood pressure, and this was the trough. So they found that the nocturnal hypotension, which was determined by this mean nighttime blood pressure and the trough in the systolic and the diastolic, resulted in a greater visual field progression as compared to patients which did not have these nocturnal dips. So autoregulation is the body's way of maintaining the perfusion in the key organs such as brain and heart when the blood pressure drops. So as soon as the blood pressure drops, there's vasoconstriction. This reduces the blood flow to the less critical organs such as the eye and maintains adequate perfusion to key organs such as brain and the heart. This results in ischemia and optic nerve damage to our patients. So apart from the vascular factors, the IOP also is important, and we all are aware of the diurnal fluctuation in the intraocular pressures. And this study found that the IOP in supine position was more than in the seated position. And the IOP nocturnal supine IOP was again higher than the daytime sitting IOP. Okay. So are we missing something? Yes, we are missing the IOP spikes because we tend to measure daytime intraocular pressures, but we are knowing that it's the nocturnal IOP which is higher than the daytime IOP. We measure the pressure in sitting position. In spite of being aware the supine IOP is more than the sitting IOP. Single IOP measurements from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. had a 75% chance of missing the highest point of diurnal curve. So coming to the normal tension glaucoma related glaucomatous optic neuropathy, the main factors contributing are the mechanical, that is IOP related, and the vascular. And coming to vascular, the main problem is the decrease in the ocular blood flow. And how does this happen? Either the blood pressure reduces, which will result in a lower perfusion pressure, or the IOP rises, which again results in a low perfusion pressure. And this results in a low blood flow and ischemia. So apart from the ophthalmic examination, a general medical examination like a 24-hour blood pressure monitoring to rule out nocturnal hypertension is very essential. A carotid druid might indicate a carotid insufficiency. It is essential to even evaluate the diastolic perfusion pressure. As Rita had mentioned, some blood tests to rule out vitamin B12 deficiency, folate deficiency, for ruling out other causes of optic neuropathy, an MRI to rule out intracranial space occupying lesions, a nail fold capillaroscopy with cold provocation may detect blood flow abnormalities. Now, coming to management, so if a patient has an excessive nocturnal diastolic blood pressure dip, and if the patient is on oral antihypertensives, we will have to reduce the blood pressure aggressiveness targets. Okay, and if the patient is not on antihypertensives, you might have to give him certain aerobic exercises, nocturnal salt loading, or sufficient water drinking might improve the dip. In addition to that, treatment of any cardiovascular abnormalities is essential to increase the optic nerve perfusion. Are topical drugs effective in IOP lowering? Beta blockers are not very effective in the night. And nocturnal IOP is lowering is much better with prostaglandin and dorzolamide. And as this graph shows, where they analyze in the daytime, that is morning 8 to evening 8, the latanoprost, the effect was almost similar as timolol on the diurnal effect. But in the night time, the latanoprost has a better effect than timolol. Dorzolamide was similar as latanoprost, and dorzolamide was better than brimonidine. So in conclusion, in view of the multifactorial pathophysiology, patients with progressive normal tension glaucoma should be managed along with a physician. Thank you.